because it did ping and it went off and you got this member decapitated. It's probably because you're trying to hide something and make sure certain details don't come out.
Return to Life with Elise starts right now.
Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Elise and this is 10 to Life. It's very early over here. It's 6:30, so I apologize. I just got into the studio, but obviously you guys know why you're here. We have a lot to talk about today. The press conference, let me just show you this photo. They are setting up all of the cameras right now, and I think there's so far as like 46 cameras or something. They're actually holding the press conference in a church as well, which I thought was really interesting and actually very nice. So here's like just a quick little sneak peek of that. So what we're going to do here is the press conference is going to start here in roughly 27 minutes. So before that, I want to just kind of talk through a lot of the things that have started to come out and through conversation over the weekend, certain things that we do know, certain things that are, of course, still speculation and rumor, and then kind of just talk with you guys in the chat before the press conference gets started, as far as any questions you guys may have, any theories or thoughts or things that you have heard. I'm sure that most of you are caught up by now. If you have no idea what this live is about and have no idea what this case is, it's too big to summarize for you. So I'm just going to say, go to the description, click that link, watch the video about the whole case first, and then come back to this live, and it'll make much, much more sense. So let's start with obviously the arrest of Richard Allen. Now, a lot of news places are now finally starting to confirm the name, although they weren't doing that fresh out of the gate on Friday because they wanted to wait until the press conference when it was formally announced, when the mugshot was released. But now the name is obviously, of course, out there. So Richard Allen was apparently a CVS pharmacy tech. He lived very close to the school of the two girls. Not unconfirmed, but it's been said that he also owned a P.O. box in Peru, which you guys know who lives in Peru, right? Keegan and Tony. And it just like all sorts of different speculation. So let me start with this. It's my belief, at least, I'll say it that way. It's my belief that Keegan was cooperating with police and gave some information up, and that's what led to this arrest. I don't know how long they have been looking at Richard, maybe a while, but I believe that there is some sort of link that maybe he used the Anthony Shots account. Maybe they exchanged material. If you catch my drift, I'm trying to be easy on these YouTube streets. So we'll know more, I think, in today's press conference. As far as how much detail they are going to release in the press conference today, from different things that I've heard, it's a little bit unclear. I've heard that they are going to release quite a bit of information, and that the reason they waited until Monday and didn't have this press conference on Friday was because they wanted to allow the weekend to be able to really inform the family of all of the details that are going to be shared. But again, who knows if that's really true or not. From what I've heard from on the other side of it is that the investigation is still in its very early stages, which would mean that they are not going to be forthcoming with a ton of information as to not jeopardize anything. So it really could go many ways. We'll find out in, 25 minutes here. Secret Agent Tink, thank you first and foremost for the super chat, and thank you so much for the support. Doing a fantastic job. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And same Dave the Pious, thank you so much for the super chat. Good morning to you. Okay, so let me kind of go in here with the comments really quick for just a second. And I'm going to show, let me pull up, not that you guys haven't seen this guy's creepy ass face before, but this is obviously Richard. Here is the sketch. And here, I don't know who did this. Somebody sent it in my Discord, but here's like a little side-by-side kind of version for you. Now, personally to me, I think that the sketch really does look like him. But also, I thought that when the side-by-side was done with Keegan, it also looked like him. So who knows? Something that we were talking about, though, in Discord, and I think I was even texting a few of you guys about it as well, is what the participation level must have been. So And again, these are all, thank you, Susie, for the super chat. And yes, Mr. Ballin is fantastic. So here's what I'm thinking. And again, this is just my theory, so tell me what you guys think in the chat. It hasn't been confirmed yet by law enforcement what the cause of death is for both of the girls, what the condition of their body was. But of course, a lot of us have heard and seen on the Reddit threads and things like that, just how truly gruesome and barbaric the crime itself was. Now, again, we don't know 100% truth to that because law enforcement hasn't confirmed directly. But it's my belief that if that is how this went down, I can't imagine that this was somebody's first time doing something violent. No way. I also can't imagine that he was working alone, especially if he was the one who was on the bridge and saying down the hill, because which he had, the person on the bridge did look heavier set or appeared to be layered in clothing. They could be concealing anything. But if what is being said as far as the condition of the girls' bodies and what took place, if what's being said is true, he would have had to have a large weapon on him. So, and again, I could be wrong, but it's my belief that there was probably somebody else working with him, that he instructed the girls down the hill, and that somebody was down there waiting and that something happened. Because not only to blitz attack two young girls sure, they're younger, you could probably overpower them, but to carry out the crime that was carried out, again, if it is true, which maybe we'll learn that today, I can't imagine that a single person is responsible for that. But I would like to know what you think. And maybe that is where Keegan's involvement is too. I don't know. So let me know what you think in the chat. Good morning, Bruce. And I also am curious as to not only the involvement, but if that's maybe why Keegan flipped. There's something off here. It's been said too that this Richard guy had trophies. Now, originally we had heard, and gosh, it must have been 7 months or so ago now, but we had heard that law enforcement had said that they think that whoever was responsible may have taken trophies and potentially staged the bodies in a certain way. So the trophies we had talked about on this channel could have been photographs of the staged bodies, pieces of their clothing, unfortunately, pieces of their person, which we have seen in cases before. And so one of the unconfirmed rumors floating around right now is that when they went to arrest Richard at his house and when they dug things up and searched the house, that there was a sock that was found and I believe a piece of underwear. Again, unconfirmed, but that is what's being said. And that also would, of course, tie in with a trophy being taken. So glad an arrest was made. Yes, me too, Ashley. Finally. We're finally hopefully getting some answers here. And I can only imagine the family's relief. And also probably a pretty daunting moment when you're now learning more of the details and realizing that this isn't now just an idea in your head, but like what really has taken place. Jackie Care, hi Annie, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else but here for the presser. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So I'm going to start going to the chat a little bit here, guys, and answer some of your questions. And then I'm going to pop up some of the news stations ahead of the press conference, just so you can kind of see as they're doing little summaries and recaps so that you can just, get rounded out for everything. Hot Mess Express, Annie, you're such a wonderful saint. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. You guys are all so sweet. You guys are just like the best. Nothing like the 10 to Life community. I will say that. Annie, can you click? Oh, Deborah, thank you so much for the super chat. Marlene is saying, can you clarify the issue about the messages? Which issue? Sorry if I missed that. Yolanda, I agree. I definitely don't think that this was his first time. Miranda, thank you so much for the support. Daisy is saying he got them down the hill pointing a gun on them. You know what? I've seen this one person, guys. I don't know if they've already been hidden, but I saw them trolling a little earlier, so I apologize. And if I see them, I'll make sure that, we get rid of that. So let me go into the comments. Gosh, this chat is moving fast. Kenzie, good morning, Annie. Thank you for covering this. I don't live far from Delphi and have been waiting for this day. Prayers for their family. I agree, and I think that's a sentiment that we can all, agree on for sure. And guys, I'm going to try to get to all of these instead of guessing. Just wait. We are waiting, Daisy. Okay, I'm glad you posted early that you would cover this because I've been avoiding the other videos I've seen on my feed waiting for you. Well, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate this. Let's see. Okay. And guys, I apologize. I'm going to try to get to all of the chats. It's just moving very fast, so I may end up needing to slow it down a bit. Is Richard Allen connected to Anthony Shots? They haven't announced it definitively. So I'm guessing that we will learn that probably this morning as far as if they share what led them to the arrest. My guess is that he probably shared the account or had access to it, or there were materials similar that were exchanged with Keegan, because I definitely think the lead came from Keegan. I could for sure be wrong, but when they started talking to him a few weeks back and they started searching the river and doing all that, that's where the biggest break now has come in the case in the last several weeks. And it's when they had been talking with Keegan. So that's just where my logic gets me, but I am not a trained professional by any stretch. So I could certainly be wrong. Sandy Hurd is saying, since he worked in a pharmacy, I wonder if he used something like chloroform. It's possible. From everything I've seen and have read and heard, and some people who have spoken out who have worked with him at the pharmacy, he appeared to be a very unassuming person. Blended in, nothing seemed out of the ordinary about him. There are some very, very eerie things, which many of you I'm sure have seen by now. There was a photo of him with his wife in a bar after the murders, a bar or a restaurant, and behind them in the background, the sketch is on the wall of the suspect, and then he's in the photo, so that feels really weird. He took a photo of his child on the same bridge. I think it was a year, maybe 2 years after. There's some really weird stuff. It's also been said, again, not confirmed, that the wife was in several of the Facebook groups that have been following the case. That doesn't necessarily mean anything, though, and I don't think that proves somebody's knowledge or guilt or that they're trying to keep an eye on things. But I would also have to ask, with all the footage, with the vocals, with the sketches, if you're in bed next to this person every night, do you see the similarities? Do you not? I don't know, like, where are the trophies kept, if they were in the house, and if the police really did find them. Is it something that works so well hidden that the wife never saw anything in the several years? I mean, I have a lot of questions, and I've got my notepad ready to go. We are gonna go after this. Okay, Kimberly, hi Annie, thanks so much for the hard work. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. This chat is moving so fast, guys. I'm really, really sorry. Let's see. Some of you guys are saying he has the same gait. Let me just play this down. I know you guys, I'm sure, have heard it a million times, but really quick, while I pull up some of the news conferences, I'm just going to play this for you.
The man in this video has never been found and never been identified, but police say he remains a person of interest in the unsolved 2017 murder of 2 Indiana teens. Along with that haunting image, his voice was found captured on a cell phone belonging to one of the victims, 14-year-old Libby German. The bodies of German and her friend, 13-year-old Abby Williams, were found in the woods near Delphi, not far from the abandoned rail bridge seen in that cell phone video, and where the 2 girls went for a hike. Earlier this year, their family spoke out on Valentine's Day, the 4th anniversary of their deaths, still agonizing over who the killer could be.
I feel very strongly that there's a very good chance that it was somebody from the area that knew this area at one time.
The fact remains there's a killer walking loose. He knows where Delphi is. We know that.
Police released this sketch of the suspect in 2019, asking the public to take a close look.
The result of the new information and intelligence over time leads us to believe the sketch, which you will see shortly, is the person responsible for the murders of these 2 little girls 6 months ago.
Okay, so let me see. I have a ton of tabs open here right now, guys, and we are going to start pulling these up. Everybody's hooked up in the press conference right now, but all the news coverages are still covering, everything else, the weather, other stories, because we still have 15 minutes here. I did see this, Samantha. I didn't know if it had been confirmed. So Samantha is saying, Annie, did you see the comment on Facebook from Libby's grandmother? She said that Libby's aunt went to the CVS for the girl's funeral photos and he handed them to her and said that she didn't need to pay. Chilling. I did hear that. it's very fascinating to see, or I guess I should say, to hear what they have to say today. And if they do release a lot of information, like what led them to this person, what was his connection, what was the motive? Again, if the details of the crime that so many have heard, but again, unconfirmed, are true, I find it very hard to believe that this was somebody's first time, not only because it appears to be skilled and planned, but just the brutality of it and the way it was carried out and then staging the bodies. I can't imagine that this is a first time. And usually what we have seen actually in a pattern is when bodies are staged, it's either very personal or it's the markings of a serial, at least from previous cases, looking at the pattern that way. And I'm not trying to suggest that he's necessarily a serial, but usually when somebody's staged, it's either personal because they're nude and it's as a means to humiliate them, or it's a serial or the start of a serial. And that's the way that they kind of have like their calling card, so to speak. And they do that in every crime. So it'll be very interesting to hear that information if they do start to release anything. Yeah, I think Keegan definitely had something to do with the, latest information. Also, when they were searching that river in Peru a few weeks ago, obviously my guess is that they were most likely looking for the murder weapon, but it's been said that this Richard guy has a P.O. box also in Peru, which many people have P.O. boxes. I'm not trying to say that that necessarily is indicative of being shady in itself, but it could be what it could be if a grown man has a P.O. box. Kenzie is saying, no way do I believe that this was his first time. He/they are a very sick individual. I think the wife also knows he did it. It'll be very interesting to hear the wife's statement, should she end up making one in the future or near future. It will be interesting to hear what she has to say about everything. Sorry, excuse me, guys. No, not every serial. You're right. Not every serial has trophies. I was talking about staging and posing, but some serials do take trophies. But I was talking more along the lines of staging and posing. That's interesting, JC. I knew it was a dad the way he said guys, as far as guys down the hill. I haven't heard that before. All right, let me see. I don't know who's spamming, but I have some mods in here so they can take care of it. Thank you, Brenda. I appreciate it so much. Let me go over here, guys. I feel like I'm hearing something. I know it hasn't started yet, but got all my tabs open, so let's go to it. No, not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Okay, so 5 different places, still not on yet. There was a photo too. Becky, just don't understand how his wife did not recognize him. I know all the clothes that my husband owns, and those did not look like new clothes. There was a photo that was going around. Let me see if I can find it, where it was a photo of him with the wife taken before the murders, and it appears like he was wearing the same jacket. Again, that he was on the bridge, if this was him. But I mean, it's a navy blue jacket, right? So it could, I guess, be anybody in theory. Where did I see that? Let me see if I can find it really quick. Where did I see it? I'll try and find it for you guys and pull it up if I can. Check my messages. Oh, God. It's just dropped my whole thing. Okay, it's going to get started here in about 9 minutes. Hold on, somebody just said to check my messages. Okay. No, there was another one. Last clock, it's when she walks up on him in the vehicle. No, there was another one besides that one. All right, let me go back over here really quick. Not here, and not here. Let's go pop over here. No, not here. What I'll do is, just to make sure that we don't end up missing anything, like 3 minutes before it's set to start, I'm just gonna share the screen anyway of the presser, just so that, obviously we don't miss anything. And make sure, so lately, I'm sure that they have this one dialed in just because they know how many people are going to be watching. But lately, in the last few pressers, their audio has been like complete garbage. So what you're going to want to do is make sure that your volume is all the way turned up, because I turn it up on my end so that it's the absolute highest that it can be. But a lot of the time, their quality and their feed doesn't come through the same way. So you will want to make sure that you turn your headphones or your volume up all the way. And then once we're done with that, if you need to like turn it back down, I'll give you guys a second so that I don't blow out your eardrum. Okay, you guys need me to slow the chat again. All right, let's go. Here we go. No, there was another. Megs, I just got your picture. There's another one that somebody sent where he's like, they're outside at like a restaurant, or they're outside at like a game or a parking lot or something, and he's with his wife in the photo, and he's wearing the blue jacket with the hoodie. God, where is it? I'll look on my phone and I'll try to find it as the press conference is going on. Okay, 1, 2. I'm going to stream here in just like a couple minutes, guys. So let me go back over to the chat for just a couple minutes. So Becky, as far as we know, he wasn't always a suspect. I did hear yesterday a news channel had said that they had talked with a sheriff over the weekend or something like that, and said that they had been watching him for a little bit now, and had their eyes on him, but that they had never announced him as a suspect. And I don't think it's been something since the beginning. I think it's something that has been a relatively new revelation. No, the picture of him in the jacket was from before the murders. Sorry, I thought I clarified that. Yes, I will keep this brief. Karen Hall, thank you for asking. We are home from the hospital, and she has been recovering completely, and she is healthy, and luckily it doesn't appear that anything was too serious, but she in total had between 10 to 12 seizure-like episodes, and I can talk about that at a different time, but luckily she is home and she is safe, so thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, let me see. I'm going to just go ahead and start pulling one of these guys up. I'll just have landing pages. So let me show you guys again. So when I was first watching this 30 or 40 minutes ago, they had already had like 36 cameras set up, and they're doing the presser in a church, which I do think is a nice thing. You can see here. Let's see. I'm just trying to see which one I'm trying to decide which one I want to pull the trigger on for streaming. I think I'm going to do this one because this one has better audio. So, all right. We're going to go here. That's what I'm going to do. Let me stream this one, and I'll make it small until we it starts. But
Love, plus the powerful cough relief you need.
Mind if I root through your trash?
Robitussin, the only brand with real honey and elderberry.
I'd like to thank our sponsor, Liberty Mutual. They customize your car insurance so you only pay for what you need. Contestants ready? Go!
Okay, so
Only pay for what you
that's
need.
what we're waiting. Okay, so we got it queued up over here. And then I'll, of course, make it bigger once they start. But I have my other ones that are open right now. So if for some odd reason it starts elsewhere first, we'll hop over there. But I don't think it's going to. And this one has the best audio. I was like looking at Fox. I was looking at the local. I was looking at Watch 8, all of those different ones. And the feed already, when they were showing their initial camera setups, were bad. So I think this one's going to be the best. And it's going to start in 2 minutes. I have Fox up too, just in case, but they also love to strike. So got to be careful streaming good old Fox. Let's see. All right, guys, I've got literally every single tab open, so we are going to get it. All right, let me go to Fox really quick just because it looks like they have it up ahead of time. And then I'll go back to the other one.
You're looking live in Delphi this morning, where we are waiting for Indiana State Police to begin that news conference. This is happening inside the Delphi United Methodist Church. We understand that there are at least 27 cameras, all from around the country and locally, who have come in town for this announcement from Indiana State Police.
Absolutely. We're expecting to hear from Indiana State Police Superintendent Doug Carter, the prosecutor, the sheriff there in Carroll County as well. And they'll go through what we know so far since Friday. So as we've mentioned, that conference scheduled for 10 o'clock this morning. So it should be starting here, they said, promptly at 10 o'clock in the morning.
We have a team of reporters who are also there, including our Russ McQuaid and Max Lewis.
All right, guys, hold on. I'm going back to the other audio.
The next day, and it is a case that has puzzled the community, that is small, close-knit for several years. Since then, all police have released is a grainy image and a recording of a voice that was captured on Libby's phone. Take a listen. Police have never named a suspect. Looks like they are going on very little as they've released to the public. Libby's sister, Kelsey German, tweeted on Friday, "Today is the day." She said she was grateful and that they will be saying more today at the news conference. That news conference is scheduled to hit right at 10 o'clock. We are waiting. We have a crew there on the ground getting every detail and answer. We also have our HLN anchor, Susan Hendricks, who has been covering this case from the very beginning. Susan, you've been there. You've been to the small, close-knit community of under 3,000 people. You've met with the families. I know we have a lot of details we want to go over, but it looks like the press conference is starting. Let's take a moment to listen in. This is Indiana State Police.
Good morning. My name is Sergeant Jeremy Piers, Public Information Officer for the Indiana State Police Lafayette Post. I'd like to thank you all for being here and thank the Delphi United Methodist Church for allowing us to use their facility. This morning, we're going to provide an update on the investigation into the murders of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. Before we get started, I'm going to introduce to you our speakers, Superintendent of the Indiana State Police, Doug Carter, the Carroll County Sheriff, Tobe Lesenby, and the Carroll County Prosecutor, Nick McClelland. I'd like to remind everyone that this continues to be an active and ongoing investigation. At the conclusion of this press conference, we are going to answer a limited amount of questions out of respect to the investigation and the process that will follow today. We will not discuss evidence that is related to this investigation. On behalf of the Delphi Double Homicide Task Force, thank you all for your continued support. I would now like to introduce to you our first speaker, Superintendent of the Indiana State Police, Doug Carter.
Give me just a second here. Seldom do I have prepared remarks, but today is different because I do not want there to be any confusion or ambiguity with what I will say. Today is not a day to celebrate, but the arrest of Richard M. Allen of Delphi on 2 counts of murder is sure a major step in leading to the conclusion of this long-term and complex investigation. First, I'd like to speak directly to Anna, Mike, Becky, Kelsey, your extended families, along with the entire Delphi community that certainly has grown and now includes our nation and even many countries around the world. I am proud to report to you that today, actually last Friday, was the day, and an arrest has been made. Thanks to literally hundreds of media outlets that have been steadfast in reporting and keeping the memories of Abby and Libby front and center. Many of you in the room have developed relationships with me personally, and you know I always have a personal perspective, and today's no different. But from a very personal perspective, you all have provided inspiration and support, even while oftentimes frustrated with us and me. You continue to encourage the efforts, and you too believe that one day we would all be here participating and sharing this news. To the entire law enforcement community, which includes all local, state, and federal agencies, which are far too many to specifically mention today, thank you, thank you, thank you. We are going to continue a very methodical and committed approach to ensure that if any other person had any involvement in these murders in any way, that person or persons will be held accountable. Since the murders of Abby and Libby 2,086 days ago, the daily investigative team has worked tirelessly and is certainly worthy of mention today. Specifically, Sheriff Linsonby, the Sheriff of Carroll County, Detectives Tony Liggett, Detective retired Kevin Hammond, former Delphi Chief and now the prosecutor's investigator Steve Mullins, State Police First Sergeant Jerry Holman, Detectives Jay Harper, Dave Vito, and Brian Harshman, along with members of the United States Marshal Service, specifically Agent Jeremy Clinton and Agent Bill Colfers. With them today is Dan McClain, the U.S. Marshal, appointed U.S. Marshal. Our state police analyst, our scientist, from many different disciplines within our laboratory division, Mrs. Kathy Shank, for your incredible dedication to detail, and to so many others that I know I've missed. I really believe that Abby and Libby would be proud of you for standing strong, even in the face of immense pressure and perpetual criticism. Some of these individuals have postponed retirement, passed on promotional opportunity, have dedicated personal time away from their families, given up nights, weekends, and holidays, all while in the pursuit of accountability for Abby and Libby. I know that today's announcement will not diminish your resolve, and I hope you have found just a bit of peace in this most complicated world. This is really important. While I know you are all expecting final details today concerning this arrest, today is not that day. Today is not that day. This investigation is far from complete, and we will not jeopardize its integrity by releasing or discussing documents or information before the appropriate time. Prosecutor Nick McClellan, of course, will share additional information about what we can and cannot say, and also explain to you why the probable cause affidavit is temporarily sealed by the court and not available. And by the way, he has been a tremendous asset to this team. I'm yet again asking you for your patience and please your understanding while our system of due process works. Also remember that all persons arrested are presumed innocent. All persons arrested are presumed innocent. You all will have an innate desire to subjectively interpret and then report what you think. We in the law enforcement realm cannot, and you should never allow us to, talk about what we think concerning facts, but rather discuss and share at the right time what it is we know. The time will come when additional details can be released. But again, today is not that day. It's about Abby and Libby, their families, and this community, this nation, and even our planet. The prosecutor has been very clear with law enforcement about what his expectations are, about what can and cannot be released, shared, or discussed. So we will, of course, comply. If you choose to be critical of our silence, be critical of me, not the front line. These are the folks who have committed their entire lives to a successful conclusion. In other words, a guilty verdict. As we move to the next phase of this investigation, I will continue to offer all resources that the ISP has to not only the investigative team I anticipate growing, but also to Prosecutor McClellan as we prepare for the coming months. Again, Nick has been very resolute and very clear, and I'm most grateful for his leadership. And it's going to be really important as we move forward. Please continue offering tips that you would like to share. The many avenues to report will remain open and will be available to all. Please continue doing that. In closing, I stand before you in this church and very place where we held our first briefing nearly 6 years ago, and just hours after the murders of Abby and Libby. Right here. Pulling in today, I wasn't really sure what emotion I would experience. But peace came over me. And I didn't expect that to happen. And I hope all of you, with all the different responsibilities you have from around the planet today, have felt some of that as well. But remember, we're not done. I think what we all have experienced proves that together there's nothing we cannot do. But more importantly, giving of ourselves, all of us, giving of ourselves matters more than what we could ever receive. Abby and Libby, though in death, have had a profound effect on so many of us, on how we live, and as importantly, who we all should be. I would now like to introduce to you my friend and the Carroll County Sheriff, Tom Ledzaby, for his remarks. Sheriff.
I believe in a God of justice and righteousness. Today, I believe that same God has provided us with justice for Abby and Libby. As Sheriff of Carroll County, Indiana, I want to publicly and sincerely thank each individual who played a role in helping us during this 5.5-year investigation. Whether it was in an investigative capacity, providing tips, cards or letters of suggestions or encouragement, phone calls, and thousands of other countless ways of communicating. I earnestly thank those who prayed for this moment in time. We now move forward through the Indiana criminal justice system, allowing the system to provide its due diligence and process in providing that justice which is owed Abby and Libby, their families, and this community. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Nicholas McClellan. I'm the Carroll County prosecutor. And before we get started, I want to reiterate some of the things that Sheriff Ledzaby and Superintendent Carter stated. I first want to thank both of them. They've been a great support to my office throughout this investigation. They've always been there for a phone call and always been willing to help a hand or a line of assistance to me and my office during this investigation. I want to thank the team behind me. This is the Homicide Task Force team that we've put together. Thank them and thank their families for being so understanding for the many nights they've worked away from their families, away from their children. There are many dates in a lifetime that you're going to remember. The date your children are born, the date you're married, the date you buy a first house, the date Abby and Libby went missing. One of those dates was last Friday, October 28, 2022. At that time, we had gathered evidence to formulate a PC that we submitted to the court, and the judge did find probable cause for an arrest of Richard Allen. He's been charged with 2 counts of murder for the murder of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. This investigation is still very ongoing. We're keeping the tip line open, the tip email open. We encourage everybody to continue to call in tips, not only about Richard Allen, but about any other person that you may have. For that reason and for the nature of this case, the probable cause and the charging information has been sealed by the court. I've been very clear to everybody that per the court order, we cannot talk about the evidence that's in the probable cause or the evidence that's in the charging information. That will become evident to you at some point and it'll be released, but right now is not that day. Today's about Abby and Libby, focusing on them. Mr. Allen has had his initial hearing. He's entered a preliminary plea of not guilty. The matter's been set for a pretrial on January 13th at 9 a.m., 2023, and a trial date of March 20th, 2023 at 9 a.m. He is presumed innocent. We will have an opportunity and day in court when we can present the evidence that we have against him. But until that day, he is presumed innocent. I want to open up to a few limited questions from the audience. But again, keep in mind, we are not going to talk about the evidence that we have in this case or about the charging information. We cannot. Those things have been sealed by the court. And so I want to open up a few questions.
Prosecutor, when did Richard Allen become a suspect? And do you think he acted alone?
Again, That's part of the investigation, so I'm not going to talk about those things. What I can say is that we have probable cause established by the court for his arrest, and he is in custody. He's being held currently without bond. I'm sorry? Again, that gets into the evidence we have of the investigation, and I know from everybody it's frustrating. I know everybody, not only reporters, but the family, everybody wants to know more information. I understand it's frustrating, but my goal is to maintain the integrity of this case.
Superintendent Carter, you had said that you believe that you had spoken to the suspect or the suspect's family 2 years ago. Is this man one of those people?
Again, I appreciate the question, but we're getting into the timeline of events, and today's not the time to do that.
Can you talk about how rare it is?
Family, I know you've had a lot of conversations with them. You were almost in tears pretty much when you started off this press conference. Can't imagine how emotional it is for everybody that's worked on this case. What was your conversation first like with the family? When you were able to tell them you finally got the suspect?
It was a very personal moment for me, and I think it was a very personal moment for them, for all of us that have had interaction with the family. We developed a relationship that I think is going to last at least one lifetime, and maybe a second. So it was a very, very, very sad yet a very humbling experience.
Superintendent, you asked for tips. You detective work. It was a reward for $325,000. Did this all come together to make this nexus? Is that the combination of all three things that led us to this day, or is it one or the other?
Well, eventually you'll be able to see what led us to this day. But again, today's not that day. To include the reward, you mentioned that, Raphael, about the reward itself, and again, very premature for us to talk about that. There's still a tremendous amount of work to do.
What would you say that Abby and Libby have taught you in depth that we can remain to continue on with?
I think probably resilience and understanding the value of each and every day. That today was the day, but I didn't anticipate they ever thought today would be their day. And I feel like I've known them for a long time.
Is somebody else involved in this case?
Excuse me?
Do you assume there's any other individuals involved in this case?
We haven't closed the door on the investigation. And so that's why we keep the tip line and the tip email open. And so we're not presuming anything at this point, but we're going to continue to take tips, continue to take any information anybody has. And as we've done with all the information we've gathered, we're going to look at that and examine that and see where it leads us.
Can you explain the law? You've asked the court, based on this investigation, that these documents should be made out of the public view. Can you explain, without getting into the details of what's in the documents, but this is not regular. Usually a public hearing is held. We should be able to see all the documents, right?
Sure.
Can you explain your decision as to why you believe that over the next 30 days, no one in this room should have access to those records?
Sure. It is unusual. We don't do it very often in all the cases that we handle here in Carroll County. We did it in this case because the investigation is still open. And while all cases are important, the nature of this case has some extra scrutiny with it. And so my office, felt it was important to seal those records. There will be a public hearing on whether or not those records are going to remain sealed or not. There'll be public notice for that hearing so that everyone can attend, but there will be a hearing to determine whether or not they're going to stay sealed. But for now, to me, it's about protecting the integrity of this case. I want to have an opportunity at some point to have an opportunity in court to explain the evidence and for that not to be tarnished or tainted or anything like that. Again, he's presumed innocent. And so it was important for me in this case to do that. Hold on just a minute. We're not going to comment on that right now as part of the investigation. Again, we just encourage everybody to continue to call in tips if they have them about anybody, and we'll examine those tips.
How does it feel for you guys to have searched nationwide for nearly 6 years, going all over the place, only to find your guy, down the street from your office?
That's a hard question to answer. It's a mixed emotions. I've been watching the news all weekend like everybody else has, and I think a lot of the members of the public said it right. It's bittersweet. It's a step in the right direction. It's concerning that he's a local guy. So I think just different emotions. Again, this is a step in the right direction. This is the first step into getting into court and having a trial. And so.
All right. That concludes our press conference today. Shortly, I will be releasing a press release that will have his photo and a couple more details that'll also be here for handout. That'll also be on the Indiana State Police Lafayette Post Facebook page. Right after this press conference, I'm going to send it out. There's also hard documents in the back. Thank you all for taking the time to be here today, and be safe as you travel home.
Okay, guys. I get it. Everybody's frustrated right now because they didn't say much. I tried to slow also the chat one more time because I know that there are some people getting wild in the chat. Look, I get the sniffling might not be ideal. I get that you want more information. At the end of the day, this is 2 teenage girls who were murdered. So let's try to have some respect and have some composure. No need to be disgusting and wild in the chat, guys. Come on. For the most part, we should all be adults. So there is actually a lot of information that they gave. If you and I was taking my notes as you're listening. So I get that there's frustration because they're not releasing the details as to what led to the arrest, any details of maybe the cause of death, things like that. But first and foremost, I know a lot of people are wondering, why did they even hold a presser? They could have just released a statement. They could have tweeted about it, this and that. I think because it is such a high profile case and such an emotional one, and, they had worked so closely with the families, I think that the move and the decision to have a press conference was more out of respect for the case, for the families, for the crime itself, because it was so highly publicized that they wanted to address what was going on, and do that head on. I think also if they had just released a statement or a tweet, you guys know as much as I do, we would have dissected that forever and the rumor mill would be going even crazier. So by doing a press conference, they not only are being respectful of the case, but they're getting ahead of it rather than allowing things to be so open to interpretation. A few things though here, if you kind of started reading between the lines of as he was saying. So we know that he was charged with 2 counts of murder. So obviously 1 count for each girl. He's being held without bond. Clearly, they see the severity of the crime. There's not even the option for him to bond out. One of the very first things that was said is how they are keeping the tip line open and the communication open if any other person or persons are involved. And they've mentioned that a couple of times throughout, but they said it at the very top of the presser, which brings me back to not thinking that he worked alone based on the details of the crime, again, assuming that what we've heard is true and factual, although they haven't confirmed that, and just the planning and how methodically they were able to take it out. So they also go on to say, all people are presumed innocent, of course. But again, they were restating that they are accepting new information if other people were involved. Now, the fact that they've already set his pretrial for the 13th of January, which is not far away at all, and set the trial for the 20th of March, tells me that they are strong in their beliefs that they have enough evidence. Here's just what I think based on looking at crimes in the past and listening to pressers. I think another big reason why they're not releasing information, why they're not releasing the affidavit, the search warrant, findings, all these things, I think they do believe there are other people involved, whether they were directly involved in the murder or were involved in, the planning of it, the execution, the cover-up of it, complicit in other crimes. And if they were to release too much information right now, not only could it potentially jeopardize the conviction, certainly it could, because, it just can make things messy, but if they are waiting for other tips to see what other players may be involved and to make other arrests, which they alluded to several times throughout, by showing any of their cards right now, they put that at risk. It puts it at risk for the other people who may be tuning in who are involved, knowing the information they have and fleeing, covering things up, getting rid of things, thinking that they're being looked at. It puts everything at risk, which in the total grand scheme of all of this is what everybody wants to keep the integrity of. The case, making sure that they get the solid conviction. The worst possible scenario right now would be to arrest him and other people and then not be able to actually bring them accountable and hold them accountable, and it slipped through their fingers. So I think they held the press conference to be respectful, to address things, get ahead of it before it took flight and got crazy. But also there's only so much they can say without jeopardizing it. And I think it's because more people are involved, but I don't know. Maybe we'll disagree on that. While this was going, I did have somebody send me over the image, let me see, of him in that jacket from before the murders on the bridge. So I know I had told you guys that I would show you that. So let me just pull that up really quick. And again, it could just be a similar navy jacket, but it looks very similar. So let me pull that up. You can see it here. So again, we don't know if other people will be charged in I would imagine that if they thought Keegan was involved in the murder itself, he would have been charged right now, especially if he is the one who helped them get this information on Richard. But I could be wrong. They could still be building a case. Think about it too. It's been years now that whoever's been involved, whether it's one person or multiple, have been able to evade police, literally in plain sight, in broad daylight, living in the same town, working at the CVS. Like, they have been successful in evading the police. So to release any sort of details now that could ever jeopardize that, especially when who's been involved has proven to be pretty intelligent and pretty smart with getting away with this crime, that's a huge risk to take just to, make the public happy and, our appetite for wanting the details. And that's not a risk that they're going to take. So we'll see. The press release is going to come out right now. I'm guessing there's not going to be any new information. It may be just his official mugshot. Otherwise, it might be another photo. I know the photo, his passport or his ID has been floating around as well. So we'll see what photo they use. And I'm guessing that we will start to learn more details in the next couple of weeks because his pretrial is set for the 13th. So he did plead not guilty, which I think is interesting. Not that people will plead guilty, but maybe they'll end up trying to work through some sort of deal, get him to flip on other people. It could be something much larger. Only time will tell, to be quite honest. So we'll see. I will keep you updated as we learn more, guys. I appreciate those of you who were respectful in the chat and weren't getting too wild. I apologize for not having more mods here. I didn't expect the chat to be this big, but I'll keep you updated as we know more, and we'll watch it carefully. And I just continue to ask too that everybody, remain respectful and show some tact, especially for the family and everything they're going to be dealing with right now as they're reeling from finding out all this information. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in, and check back for updates. All right, bye.